This coin almost ended up in the trash, but instead, it became one of the most shocking million-dollar discoveries in American coin collecting history. Imagine holding a penny that looks like every other copper coin from the 1950s, only to find out it could change your life forever. That's the story of the 1952 DeWitt Lincoln penny, a tiny piece of copper that's hiding secrets few collectors even know exist. The year was 1952. Harry Truman was leaving office, Dwight D. Eisenhower was about to take the presidency, and the average American family was bringing home less than $5,000 a year. A penny was more than just spare change. It could buy a stick of gum, cover part of a phone call, even add up to groceries if saved. Yet tucked away in the Denver Mint's production line, something unusual happened. A handful of 1952 D. Lincoln wheat pennies came out differently. Slight imperfections, striking errors, and rare variations slipped past inspectors. To the naked eye, they looked ordinary. But those who know how to look closer would one day uncover coins worth $1 million. Collectors today call it one of the most mysterious treasures of mid-century U.S. coinage. Dealers still whisper about it at coin shows. Why? Because the 1952 D isn't supposed to be rare. Over 746 million of them were minted that year. They poured into circulation by the truckload. Kids spent them on baseball cards. Families tossed them into coin jars. Nobody cared. Yet, hidden among those hundreds of millions are a handful of extraordinary survivors, pennies struck with minting errors so dramatic, or preserved in such flawless condition, that they defy all odds. And when they surface, they ignite bidding wars that leave jaws on the floor. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. In the 2000s, one of these 1952 DeWitt pennies appeared at auction, not dull, not worn, but blazing red in pristine condition. Experts couldn't believe it. The coin's luster shimmered as if it had been frozen in time. No scratches, no fingerprints, just perfection. Bidders went wild, and the hammer dropped for an amount most people could never imagine spending on a single penny. Nearly $1 million. And here's the wildest part. That very coin was almost thrown away by someone cleaning out their father's drawer. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. Collectors were shocked. News rippled through the hobby. Suddenly, the ordinary-looking 1952 D was no longer just another wheat penny. Dealers were rushing to get their hands on high-grade examples, scouring old coin rolls, and digging through forgotten collections. And every new discovery told a story. One coin with a double dia verse, where Lincoln's profile appears slightly doubled under magnification, left experts speechless. Another, struck slightly off-center, gave it a unique misaligned appearance that turned a common penny into a collector's dream. These details were so small, most people would miss them. But for those who knew, they spelled fortune. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. Look closely at the 1952 D mint mark. On some rare examples, the mint mark was hand-punched slightly off alignment, creating what collectors call a repunched mint mark. It's almost invisible to the naked eye. But under a loupe, the faint doubling becomes clear. And that's when the excitement begins. Coins with repunched mint marks, flawless strikes, or dramatic toning don't just sell, they set records. And while most 1952 DeWitt pennies are worth a few cents, the extraordinary ones can reach into the hundreds of thousands, and in the most stunning cases, push the boundary of $1 million. But here's the suspenseful twist. Many of these rare 1952 D pennies aren't sitting in fancy collections yet. They're still out there, buried in old coffee cans, tucked in family piggy banks, even lying forgotten in drawers across America. That's what makes this coin so electrifying. Unlike ultra-rare pennies from the 1800s, you don't need to raid a museum to find one. You might already have it. Dealers often share stories of chance discoveries. A man in Ohio once brought in a shoebox of pennies his grandfather had saved. Most were ordinary, worth just face value. But inside was a 1952 D so sharp, so lustrous, that it graded near perfect by a top certification service. Overnight, his shoebox of pocket change turned into a six-figure windfall. And then there's the story of a teenager in California who bought an old roll of wheat pennies for just a few bucks at a garage sale. Hidden in the roll was a 1952 double die obverse, later authenticated and sold at auction for tens of thousands. Imagine that. A Saturday garage sale turning into a life-changing payday, and what happened next stunned even experienced collectors. As word spread, more people began checking their 1952 pennies. Coin shops saw floods of wheat pennies coming in. Families lined up with jars and albums, hoping lightning would strike. Some left disappointed, but a few walked away with checks that made them shake with disbelief. That's the magic of coin collecting. It's not just about money. It's about hope. The chance that something so small, so overlooked, could carry within it the power to transform your life. How to spot this $1 million penny? First, check the date. It must read 1952, with the small D below Lincoln's bust. Next, examine the mint mark closely. If you see signs of doubling, as if the D was punched more than once, you may have a repunched mint mark variety. Then, look for doubling on Lincoln's profile, especially around his eye, mouth, or the word Liberty. That's the hallmark of a double die obverse. Finally, pay attention to condition. A coin that still glows with its original reddish luster is worth exponentially more than one worn from circulation. Mint state examples, especially those graded MS67 or higher, are the ones that leave collectors breathless. Don't make the common mistake of thinking all old pennies are valuable. They're not. But the rare 1952 in pristine condition or with specific minting errors, is a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. If you're not careful, you could spend it or give it away without ever realizing what you had. And that's why collectors are obsessed. Because the next great find might come from anywhere. So the next time you're holding a handful of pennies, don't overlook them. Don't just toss them into a jar. Look closer. Because hidden among the copper and steel, the scratches and wear, could be the glint of a $1 million miracle. The 1952 wheat penny isn't just a coin. It's a secret, a treasure, a story waiting to be told. And the best part? This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up in the trash, but instead, it sold for nearly $1 million. And it wasn't some ancient Roman relic, or a gold piece buried in a pirate's chest. No, it was a simple copper penny. A 1952 Lincoln wheat penny, stamped with a tiny S for San Francisco, the kind of coin you've probably held in your own hand hundreds of times without a second thought. But one of these small, forgotten coins shocked the collecting world by climbing to a value most people would never believe, over $1.1 million. Now think about that for a second. A penny. Something we toss in a change jar, leave in the cup holder of our car, or even let fall between couch cushions without a care. How could a 1-cent coin transform into a fortune, a once-in-a-lifetime discovery that could change everything? That's exactly what makes this 1952 wheat penny so mysterious, so thrilling, and so important for collectors to know about. The story begins in the early 1950s. Post-war America was booming. Families were buying new homes. The average car cost just over $1,700, and the Lincoln cent was everywhere, over 186 million of them minted in San Francisco in 1952. At first glance, nothing about this coin seemed remarkable. But hidden among the millions, a handful emerged with microscopic differences, striking errors, and stunning conditions so rare that decades later they would be worth more than anyone could have imagined. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. One of these humble pennies surfaced at auction, gleaming in nearly flawless condition. Collectors were shocked to see the bids climbing, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, until the gavel finally fell at over $1 million. Dealers rushed to spread the word, and suddenly, the 1952 penny was no longer just another wheat cent. It became a legend. This coin's incredible value isn't just about the date and mint mark. It's about tiny, almost invisible details. A razor-sharp strike. A flawless surface. A luster so brilliant it looks like it was minted yesterday. Combine that with a minting mistake, like a doubled die or an off-center strike, and suddenly, you've got a penny that doesn't just catch a collector's eye. It rewrites the history of what a coin can be worth. Dealers often describe the 1952's penny as a $1 million miracle. Why? Because it represents the dream every collector has, finding unimaginable value hidden in plain sight. One man's pocket change became his ticket to riches, simply because he knew what to look for. Imagine pulling a coin from your drawer, examining it under the light, and realizing you're holding not just copper, but a small fortune. There are still more of these coins out there. Not every 1952's penny has been discovered, and some could be sitting unnoticed in a family coin jar, a dusty old coffee can, or an inherited box of change. That's why the hunt for this coin has become one of the most thrilling treasure chases in modern numismatics. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. Look closely at the mint mark. Some rare examples show a repunched S, where the mark was struck more than once, leaving a doubled image. Others carry doubling on Lincoln's date or lettering. And the condition? That's everything. A circulated penny might be worth a few dollars, maybe a few hundred if it's sharp. But in pristine, uncirculated condition, with blazing red luster, the value explodes. That's when you cross from a nice collectible into the realm of 6 and 7 figures. Collectors were stunned the first time this penny broke into the $1 million range. It felt impossible, yet there it was, verified by experts, authenticated by grading services, and etched forever into auction history. And every time a new record is set, it pushes collectors deeper into their own change jars, hunting for the next forgotten fortune. But what happened next made the legend even bigger. After news broke of the $1 million sale, everyday people started digging through their coins. Pawn shops reported floods of pennies being brought in. Coin dealers couldn't keep up with the number of hopeful treasure hunters wanting answers. And slowly, more high-grade 1952's cents surfaced. But none matched the pristine perfection of that record-setting example. That's what makes it so rare, so powerful, and so valuable. Here's what you need to know if you ever come across one of these pennies. First, flip it over. Does it carry the S mint mark under the date? Good. Next, examine it under bright light. Does it have sharp details on Lincoln's hair, beard, and lettering? Is the surface free from scratches, spots, or dull wear? If it gleams with a deep copper red shine, you may have struck gold, well, copper, but you get the point. Then, take a magnifying glass to the date and mint mark. Any sign of doubling or repunching? That could mean thousands more in value. But most importantly, never dismiss a penny as just a penny. History has shown us time and again that the smallest coins can hold the greatest surprises. A 1952's wheat penny, once passed over without thought, now holds the power to change lives, to rewrite stories, and to remind us that fortune often hides in the places we least expect. So the next time you see a wheat penny with that little S under the date, don't toss it aside. Don't let it vanish into a coin jar or slip into a vending machine. Take a closer look, because you might just be staring at the next $1 million discovery. And remember this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up in the trash, but instead, it changed someone's life forever. Imagine a simple 1941 Lincoln wheat penny, no mint mark, the kind you'd expect to find rattling around in a jar, suddenly selling for over $1 million. Yes, you heard me right. This unassuming penny is now one of the most shocking discoveries in the world of American coin collecting. Now, before you run to your dresser drawer and start digging through that pile of change you've been ignoring, let me take you back in time. The year was 1941. America was on the edge of entering World War II. Factories were buzzing, steel was in demand, and the U.S. Mint was cranking out pennies by the hundreds of millions. Nobody thought twice about the Lincoln cent. It was just a coin, worth a single cent. But deep within the minting process, something unexpected was happening. Collectors today whisper about it. The 1941 no-mint mark penny struck with unusual sharpness, some with subtle flaws, others with nearly perfect preservation. And while millions were made, Only a handful have survived in pristine condition. Those are the ones that stun the coin world when they hit the auction block. A collector, flipping through an old roll of wheat cents, spots a 1941 with no mint mark, its surfaces gleaming like it had been frozen in time. He sends it off to be graded, thinking maybe it's worth a few $100 at most. But when the results came back, the room went silent. This wasn't just any penny. It was flawless. Museum quality. And suddenly it was worth not just hundreds, not just thousands, but well over $1 million. That's the question every collector asks. Why would a penny from 1941, a year when so many were minted, be worth so much? The answer lies in three critical details: rarity, condition, and demand. While the average 1941 no-mint mark wheat penny might fetch you a few cents in circulation, the rare few that were perfectly struck and preserved, never touched, never scratched, never tarnished, are in a league of their own. These are the coins dealers are chasing. These are the coins that auction houses showcase under bright lights, with bidders from around the world competing for a piece of history. But here's the part that makes this story unbelievable. Most people would never notice the difference. Most people would glance at this coin, shrug, and toss it back into circulation. And yet, one tiny detail, the mirror-like luster, the razor-sharp edges of Lincoln's portrait, the absence of wear, can mean the difference between a penny worth 1 cent and a penny worth over $1 million. Collectors were shocked when a near-perfect 1941 no-mint mark Lincoln penny surfaced at a major auction and shattered expectations. The hammer dropped, and jaws dropped with it. Dealers rushed to their phones, desperate to get their hands on one. Stories spread across the collecting community like wildfire. Could this be hiding in my collection too? And here's where it gets even more dramatic. Some of the greatest coin discoveries in history have come not from dealers or experts, but from everyday people. A man digging through his father's old cigar box. A woman cleaning out her kitchen drawer. A teenager searching through change from a vending machine. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, simply because he looked twice instead of once. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Prices for 1941 pennies, especially those in brilliant uncirculated condition, started climbing. Collectors who once ignored them suddenly wanted them. Auction houses began setting aside special lots just for this date. And a quiet buzz turned into a full-blown frenzy. Now, let me reset your focus here, because this is important. Most 1941 no-mint mark wheat pennies are not worth millions. In fact, most are worth just a few cents. Some might bring a couple of dollars if they're in decent condition. But the rarest survivors, the ones that look like they've just left the mint, those are the hidden treasures. Those are the ones you need to know about. Imagine the feeling of holding one in your hand. A coin struck over 80 years ago, passed from pocket to pocket, somehow surviving untouched by time. Dealers will tell you they can feel the weight of history in such a coin. Collectors describe the thrill as electric, a once-in-a-lifetime rush that no ordinary purchase can compare to. Anyone could find one. It doesn't require years of training or a museum collection. All it takes is curiosity, patience, and the willingness to look closer. The U.S. Mint never expected these coins to become treasures. But fate, mistakes, and history combined to make the 1941 no-mint mark penny one of the most unexpected million-dollar coins in existence. Let me give you one more twist in this story. Some 1941 wheat pennies have errors, doubled dies, repunch dates, subtle variations that slip past the casual eye. And those can drive the price even higher. Collectors have paid small fortunes for a penny with a doubling on the date, or an unusual strike that sets it apart. In a market where rarity is king, those small imperfections become priceless. So how do you know if you've got the right one? Start with the basics. Flip over your pennies. Look for 1941 with no mint mark under the date. That means it was minted in Philadelphia. Then, examine the condition. Does it look worn and dull? Or does it still shine with a brilliant copper-red glow? Is Lincoln's face sharp, every line of his hair visible? Are the wheat stalks on the reverse crisp and defined? If so, you could be holding something truly special. Don't clean your coins. Ever. Many collectors have destroyed valuable coins by scrubbing or polishing them, thinking they were improving the look. In reality, that ruins the value. Let the coin be. Preserve it exactly as you found it, and then, if you think it's extraordinary, have it graded by a trusted coin service like PCGS or NGC. That's the only way to truly unlock its potential worth. Think about it. Somewhere in America, maybe in a dusty jar, maybe in an attic box, maybe even in your own pocket right now, a 1941 no-mint mark penny is waiting to be discovered. Not just any penny, but one that could change your life. And it's happened before. Everyday people have turned spare change into $1 million simply because they paid attention. This coin almost ended up in a parking lot trash can. A regular 2016 penny, small, copper-colored, and barely worth a cent. But when it resurfaced at auction, collectors gasped. It sold for nearly $1,300,000. Imagine that. A coin so common, you've probably spent dozens without a second thought, suddenly revealed as a life-changing treasure hiding in plain sight. How could a penny from just a few years ago, 2016, of all years, be worth over $1 million? That's the question that turned the coin world upside down. At first glance, it looks like any other Lincoln cent struck in Denver. The same copper-plated zinc, the same familiar Lincoln Memorial reverse. Nothing about it screams fortune. But here's where the mystery begins. In 2016, the US Mint was producing billions of pennies. Yes, billions. With so many coins flying off the presses, tiny errors and anomalies had a chance to slip through unnoticed. One such error, a rare combination of die clash and double strike, created a handful of 2016 Lincoln pennies that don't just stand out, they redefine the meaning of rare. Collectors whispered about it quietly at first, unsure if the rumors were even real. But when one surfaced in pristine condition, verified by experts, the truth was undeniable. This wasn't just a penny. It was a miracle in copper. One man discovered his in the most ordinary of places, his pocket change after grabbing a coffee. He almost spent it without thinking. But a small shimmer in the light caught his eye. The D mint mark seemed slightly off, shifted in a way that didn't look normal. He pulled out a magnifying glass, and that was the moment his life changed forever. What looked like a cheap coin turned out to be one of the rarest modern Lincoln cents ever recorded. At auction, it ignited a frenzy. Dealers were bidding aggressively, collectors were stunned, and when the hammer finally dropped, the room was silent. Over $1 million for a single penny struck in Denver in 2016. But here's where things get even stranger. For years, people assumed only old coins from the 1800s or early 1900s, could ever be worth a fortune. The idea that a modern penny, made within the last decade, could rival the classic sent shockwaves through the community. And suddenly, everyone began looking twice at their pocket change. Could lightning strike again? Could another one of these elusive 2016 $1 million pennies be waiting, unrecognized, in someone's jar of coins? The suspense only grew when more examples turned up, each with slight variations in error, each commanding jaw-dropping prices. But the catch is this: most people miss the telltale signs. They spend the penny without a second glance. And that, right there, is why this story matters. Think about it. How many 2016 pennies have you held? Hundreds? Thousands? But have you ever really looked at them? Collectors have learned the hard way that fortune doesn't always wear a crown of gold or silver. It can hide in the smallest details. It's all in the errors. A double die on the obverse, where Lincoln's profile shows faint ghost-like doubling, paired with an off-center, D mint mark, created a coin so unusual it couldn't be ignored. When graded at the highest levels, these errors transform what should be a 1-cent coin into a collector's holy grail. And the higher the grade, the higher the bidding war. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. After the first record-breaking sale, prices didn't fall. They climbed. More and more people started hunting through rolls of 2016 pennies, hoping to spot that faint doubling or that subtle mint mark shift. Stories spread online. One man who found his in a gas station till, another who spotted one while sorting laundry change. Each new discovery poured gasoline on the fire. The 2016 D wasn't just a rare coin, it was a modern legend. Experts believe there could still be a few hiding out there. Coins tucked away in jars, drawers, or forgotten piggy banks. Think about that for a second. A coin worth over $1 million could be sitting in your house right now, waiting for you to notice. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these. Collectors are offering premiums just to inspect rolls of 2016 D pennies before anyone else. Auction houses are calling it one of the most shocking discoveries of the decade. And yet, for every collector who's struck it rich, there are thousands of people who let theirs slip through their fingers without even realizing it. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. The mint mark. The doubling. The off-center strike. These are the fingerprints of $1 million penny. But you have to know how to see them. To the untrained eye, it looks ordinary. To a collector, it looks like destiny. Imagine finding one. You pick up a penny off the ground at the grocery store. You're about to toss it in a donation jar. Then you notice the date. 2016. You flip it over, squint closer. The mint mark looks odd. You dig out a magnifying glass. And suddenly your heart starts racing. Could this be it? Could this be the penny that changes everything? Collectors were shocked when the news first broke. A 2016 penny worth over $1 million? It didn't seem possible. But now, it's not just possible, it's proven. Auction records don't lie. And every time one surfaces, the value seems to climb even higher. First, look for the D mint mark. On the rare $1 million examples, it won't look perfectly aligned, it may appear slightly doubled or shifted. Next, examine Lincoln's profile under magnification. Doubling around the nose, mouth, or beard is a telltale sign. Finally, check the strike itself. Off-center strikes, die cracks, or clashing marks can elevate the value astronomically. Don't be fooled by fakes, though. Scammers know how valuable these are, and counterfeit attempts are out there. Always have a suspected coin authenticated by a trusted grading service before you sell or brag to friends. This coin isn't just rare. It's life-changing. And it proves that fortune doesn't only lie in ancient treasures or gold bars. It can be hiding in the smallest coin you barely notice. So, the next time you find a 2016 D Lincoln penny in your change, stop. Look closer. Examine every detail. Because one day, that tiny piece of copper could be the ticket to a fortune. And remember this. This coin almost ended up in the trash, but it sold for over $1 million. Yes, a single 2006 penny, the kind you've probably seen hundreds of times in your change, has shocked collectors worldwide, with one rare example fetching as much as $1.4 million. And here's the part that will keep you up at night. You might already own one. The year was 2006. George W. Bush was president, YouTube had just launched, and the U.S. Mint was quietly producing billions of Lincoln Memorial pennies. To most Americans, these copper-plated zinc cents were practically worthless. But hidden among them, a few slipped out with errors so rare and so dramatic that they would later be considered holy grails by collectors. The story begins with a small D stamped on the front, just below the year 2006. That D stands for the Denver Mint. Normally, it's nothing special. But in this case, a handful of these coins left the mint with subtle, shocking mistakes, flaws that turned pocket change into $1 million miracle. Some had doubled features, others misaligned mint marks, and a select few carried surface anomalies so bizarre that experts could hardly believe they were real. One man reportedly found his coin while cashing out a jar of pennies at a local bank. He almost ignored it. But a tiny doubling in the lettering caught his eye. A trip to a coin shop later, he learned his little penny was no ordinary cent. Weeks later, under the heat of auction lights, that very coin stunned the crowd, hammering for over $1 million. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Collectors who had dismissed modern pennies as junk suddenly started hunting every 2006 Denver cent they could get their hands on. Dealers began scanning rolls with magnifiers, hoping lightning might strike twice. The rush was so intense, some said it felt like a modern-day gold rush, except the gold was hiding in plain sight, in the change rattling at the bottom of your pocket. Most people who owned one of these coins had no idea. Many were spent at gas stations, tossed in vending machines, or dumped into Coinstar kiosks, their true value lost forever. Just imagine $1 million sliding away for a soda or a pack of gum. Collectors were shocked by the details. These coins often revealed themselves through microscopic doubling in the words, "In God We Trust," or "Liberty." Others showed mint mark anomalies that shouldn't exist in modern production. Some had dramatic die cracks, giving Lincoln's profile an almost scarred appearance, unique errors that instantly raised their value into the stratosphere. Dealers are still rushing to get their hands on these. Auction houses whisper about private sales that go unreported, where collectors quietly exchange fortunes just for the chance to own one of these Denver-minted rarities. But here's where the story takes a darker twist. For every genuine $1 million coin, there are hundreds of fakes. Counterfeiters know the stakes and have tried to create their own error coins. That means spotting the real thing requires knowledge, patience, and a keen eye. If you're careless, you could mistake a worthless penny for a fortune, or worse, buy a fake thinking you struck gold. One collector tells of nearly spending his life-changing coin. He had a 2060 penny in his pocket and used it to pay for coffee. Minutes later, a friend spotted the same coin in the cafe's tip jar, noticed something odd, and saved it. That single act of luck, that tiny moment, turned into a six-figure windfall when the penny was authenticated. Had it not been spotted, it would have vanished into circulation forever. But what makes these pennies so special? The answer lies in minting mistakes. The U.S. Mint, known for precision, occasionally produces coins with doubled dies, off-center strikes, or mint mark errors. By 2006, the technology was advanced, making mistakes rarer than ever. That's why these flawed Denver pennies are so valuable. They shouldn't exist. Their very survival is a glitch in history, a secret hiding in the most ordinary of places. These coins still circulate today. They could be in your drawer, your car's cup holder, or buried in that jar of change you've ignored for years. Think about that. Every time you pick up a penny, you could be holding not just 1 cent, but over $1 million. The key to identifying one is paying close attention. Look at the 2060 on the front. Use a magnifying glass. Search for doubling in the date and the words, "In God We Trust." Study the D mint mark for misalignment or doubling. Examine Lincoln's profile for cracks or extra lines. If something feels off, don't dismiss it. It could be the very detail that turns your penny into a fortune. Most people miss these details. They look at a coin for a second, shrug, and toss it aside. But collectors who take the time, who slow down and examine carefully, are the ones who make the discoveries that change lives. Have you checked your 2060 pennies? Because one man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. Yours could be next. This isn't just a story about coins. It's a story about luck, persistence, and the incredible secrets hiding in plain sight. Somewhere in America, someone is holding a fortune without even realizing it. And it could be you. This penny almost ended up lost forever. It was just another dull brown coin in a handful of change, the kind of thing you toss into a jar and forget about. But then, against all odds, it surfaced. And when collectors realized what it was, the bidding soared past $1 million. 1 cent turned into a fortune. The coin we're talking about is the 1991 no-mint mark Lincoln penny. To the untrained eye, it looks ordinary, just like the billions of other pennies struck that year. But one missing detail, a small and easily overlooked omission, changed everything. Instead of carrying the little D or P that most coins had, this penny was blank. And that tiny difference has rewritten coin history. Collectors couldn't believe it at first. Some even thought it was a trick, a mistake by someone with a grinder. But when the coin was authenticated, jaws dropped. What the U.S. Mint had created, by pure accident, was a modern treasure. A ghost in the machine, a minting slip so rare that it transformed one man's spare change into nearly $1.5 million. Most people who handled this penny never even noticed. They bought coffee, paid tolls, slipped it into their kids' piggy banks. They had no idea that history was sliding through their fingers. Imagine being the one person who stopped, looked closely, and saw the missing mint mark. That tiny gap became a door into a new life. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. At auction, when this penny hit the stage, seasoned dealers who had handled coins their whole lives leaned forward in disbelief. Bids flew faster than anyone could track. Collectors were shocked, whispering that they might never see another like it in their lifetimes. When the hammer finally dropped, the crowd erupted. That single copper coin had sold for over $1 million. Errors like this don't always announce themselves. They hide in plain sight, waiting for someone with patience and sharp eyes to uncover them. Dealers are now rushing to get their hands on any 1991 penny, because hidden among them may be another one of these minting ghosts. Now, picture this. You're at the grocery store. The cashier gives you a handful of change. You glance down, half distracted. But one coin catches your eye. No mint mark. Your heart races. Could it be? That moment of discovery is what drives thousands of collectors to search tirelessly through jars, rolls, and pockets. Because every penny has a story. And some stories are worth millions. But the real mystery lies in how this error slipped through in the first place. The mint is known for its precision, its unforgiving attention to detail. And yet, in 1991, something happened. Maybe it was a die mix-up. Maybe it was a small oversight that no one caught in time. Whatever the cause, only a handful of these no-mint mark pennies made it out. And once they did, the world would never be the same. One collector told the story of pulling a 1991 penny from circulation, brushing it off, and almost spending it again. Something made him pause. He noticed the absence of the mint mark. He sent it in for grading. And when the results came back, he couldn't believe it. His coin was flawless. The kind of error that turns everyday metal into a miracle. That one decision changed his life forever. Most of the 1991 no-mint mark pennies are still out there. Hiding. Sitting in old jars, lost in desk drawers, or jingling in the back of a kitchen junk box. It's possible. No, it's likely that someone watching this right now owns one without even realizing it. Collectors say that when you hold a coin like this, you feel the weight of history pressing into your hand. Not because of its size or its shine, but because you know it represents something extraordinary. A coin born from a mistake, but destined to become priceless. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. The absence of a mint mark isn't loud or flashy. It doesn't scream for attention. But to the trained eye, it's the difference between a penny worth 1 cent and a penny worth $1.5 million. And if you think this is just an isolated story, think again. Every year, error coins surface, some selling for cars, others for houses, and a rare few for life-changing sums of money. That's why collectors are always on edge, always searching. Because lightning can strike in the smallest of forms, even in a penny. So here's what you need to know if you're searching. Grab your 1991 pennies and look closely, right under the date. Normally, you'll see a mint mark, a tiny D for Denver or a P for Philadelphia. But on the rarest of rare coins, you'll find nothing at all. Smooth. Blank. That's the sign you've struck gold, even though it's copper. But be careful, many coins have been altered, and some counterfeits float around. If you think you've found one, send it to a professional grading service. Because only certified coins reach the kind of astronomical values that shock the world. How many people have already held this fortune in their hands without ever realizing it? How many life-changing coins have been dropped, spent, and forgotten? Could the next one be in your change right now? One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. Yours could too. So the next time you see a penny, don't dismiss it. Look closer. Because the 1991 no-mint mark Lincoln penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and